How's it going? Bugging out. When you're bugging out, at some point or another, you are going to get hungry. And if you don't want your belly button to introduce itself to the backbone, you're going to want to have some chow in you because you're going to be burning calories like a madman, especially if you wind up on foot. And that's what we want to kind of plan for, is the eventuality that we might actually wind up on foot. Our mission is to get from where we are to where we want to be. And in order to do that, you're going to have to put some gas in the tank. We can't just stop by the grocery store because it'll probably be completely out of food, and if it's not, there'll be so many dangerous, crazy people there that we may not want to go inside. So we're just going to have to remove this option from the kitchen table because it's not going to happen. If it does, well, you're a lucky person. Let's talk about some of the other options that are out there. You could carry food with you. Now, there are a lot of these different foods, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But sometimes there's a misnomer people have. They're like, well, I'm going to live off the land. I'm going to get my edible plants guide, and I'm going to get some fish hooks. And by the way, if you are doing a sear kit, that's a bit of an optimistic sized fish hook, unless you happen to be near the ocean and you can get out there with a big boat. That's a little bit more realistic at number 6, and we'll get into that when we talk about our sear kit fishing compartment. That being said, okay, look, it's good to know these things, okay, believe me, because we're going to supplement our food with this, but this can't be the primary source of our food because using this takes calories. I don't mean reading the book, I mean getting wild plants to eat and finding them, hoping you don't eat something poisonous and get sick. And you have to eat a tremendous amount of calories. Did you know that you would have to eat 60 pounds of cabbage in order to get all of the nutrients necessary to survive? That is a lot of cabbage. You would have to have your head closer to the ground than your rear end to accomplish that mission. There's no way you're going to eat 60 pounds of cabbage. And yet, when you're eating a lot of these greens and these vegetables, you have to understand you're only getting a part of what you really need in your daily diet. With all due respect to people that are vegetarians, most of us cannot assimilate vegetable proteins very well. And so we don't want to rely solely upon these, although these are some pretty good ideas, okay, to have with us as a supplement. Not necessarily plan A. I learned something in SEER school that there's a ratio of calories expended to calories gained, and you have to make sure that everything you do when you're in a survival situation is going to give you calories gained. Now that being said, we're having to spend calories to get where we're going. We're going to have to spend a tremendous amount of calories to move and to walk. And if you're not eating anything, you're going to quickly run out of energy, and by a couple of days, sure, you'll be alive, but you'll be barely functional. You can eat calories that aren't very good for you. This calorie packet here is 2,400 calories. It's a Daytrex ration, and I've done a review on this, so I'm not going to throw them under the bus. In fact, I will say this. Somebody contacted me from them, and they very politely pointed out this is a lifeboat ration. And I said, oh, awesome. So I politely pointed out, you didn't say that on the label, and nor do you say it in your advertisements from your vendors out there. So as long as you're going to market it as an emergency ration, I'm going to point out that it's really not. It is good lifeboat ration, though, because it won't dry you out by giving you too much protein. It's real good if you're just going to lay there and wait for the Coast Guard to come in and rescue you. That being said, I don't think we're going to be really waiting for the Coast Guard out there in a big lifeboat. I think we're going to have a different bug out plan. If your bug out plan is on the water and we're in a WROL or a lights out situation, well, the Coast Guard's probably going to be a little busy, if they're even there at all. I remembered when I was doing all of this that I went on one SEER exercise, and my SEER kit had several of the long-range reconnaissance patrol rations in them. Now, I couldn't find them anywhere on the net other than nostalgia ones that were actual Vietnam era, and I thought, wow, they're probably still edible, but they were wanting like $70 a piece for them, and that's just a bit more money than I'm willing to spend times 10 for a single meal. So I looked and looked and looked, and I was typing LRP ration, and somehow I came up with this, which is an LRP. It's a long-range patrol ration. And this is the overstock version that's been bought up by apparently one guy. I'm not going to mention his name because he's the only one that I found, and I'm hoping if I don't, somebody else will figure out another source. And this is made by the Oregon Freeze Dry Incorporated, and our freeze-dried rations when I was a LRP were Mountain State. The Oregon State, I believe, or the Oregon Freeze-Dry Company, might be affiliated, I don't know. Not really important. What is important is what's under the hood. And what's under the hood on this car is essentially about 600 calories, and they're good calories, okay? This is going to give us roughly about a third of most of our dietary requirements from one of these. All right, and we're going to get 40% of the vitamin C, or up to 60% in this one. So that's tremendous. You want vitamin A, vitamin B, and especially vitamin C, but B and C most of all, because those are going to reduce your stress levels. They're going to keep you healthy. Now, to that end, you can probably get some multivitamins, right, in a jar, a little bottle, a glass bottle or whatever. Keep it sealed. They've got a really good shelf life. And toss that in the bottom of your, I've got a really good multivitamin in the bottom of mine. A little bottle of them, like 50. Because remember, our goal is to get where we're going. We don't want to stop and be having to scrounge around for food. By the same token, you can only carry so much food. That's why a freeze-dried ration is an excellent augment to your sear kit. These come in at about just under 6 ounces apiece, and you will add 16 ounces of hot water to reconstitute them. When you do that, you'll have essentially 22 ounces of hot food in your hands, and that really is going to go a long way, especially 600 calories. That's a very good sized meal. Most of us, we will only eat, if we're eating right, 5 meals a day. We're going to eat about 400 or so calories. Remember also, when you're in a sear situation, that the paradigm of fats changes. Right now, if we're trying to burn fat, we're eating about 40% protein, 40% carbs, and 20% fats. We're going to want to bump that fat number up quite a bit, and we'll probably drop the proteins down to about 25%. So you can eat a lot more carbs and fats when you're out in the bush, and your daily caloric intake will probably go up. If you're out in the snow and the cold is sleeping outside at night, your caloric intake is going to almost double. This is why when we go out in the woods to go camping, food tastes so much better, because we are working up quite a healthy appetite. Something about that fresh air and the environment and moving around always gives us a good appetite. Now let's talk cost. Each of these are $6 more or less a piece. Okay, so hang on to your hat. If you want to eat a good balance of carbs, this is a full day's worth right here. So that's $24 for a day's worth of food. However, we don't have to just be monofocused and eat only freeze-dried food. We can supplement, not just with stuff we find out in the woods, because that may be hit or miss. On that note, usually you wind up eating bugs or something else, because snares and whatnot don't really net that much gain. I'm sorry, some people that are experts will say, well, it does for me. Well, sure it does, but you know, not everybody is an expert like you are. Most of us are going to go out there and fumble around and realize after several days of wasting all of these calories that we haven't caught anything, and now we're starving to death. So we're going to want to carry as much food as we can without falling over into the ditch from too much weight. Right here we have 24 ounces of food that will expand out to 21 total per bag. So it's going to give you 4 times. If there's 21 ounces here, we're going to have 82 ounces of food, more or less, from this. And that's a great amount of food when we're out there moving. That's going to keep us full, satisfied, and it's going to have all of the daily nutrients that we need. However, that may be a little expensive for some of us. And so to help supplement this, let's go down to big box store, shall we? And we'll set these here. We're going to keep those. We're going to eat 2 of these a day, okay? That's going to give us a really good source of meat and carbohydrates, and give us a small amount of our protein as well. Enter the ubiquitous Cliff Bar. Ta-da! I got these for $1 a piece. I don't know what they are at your store, but you can buy 6 packs of them. And they're great because they have a lot of oatmeal in them. They're basically a giant oatmeal cookie, but they have a good shelf life of almost a year. And on top of that, they've got 230 calories a piece. So we've already got 1,200 calories here. We add another 690. That's 1,890 calories right there. And this only costs us $3. There are essentially more calories in these 3 bars for $3 than there are in one of these for $6. They're a different kind of calorie, and now we're getting a good balance. We're hitting all the bases. To top this out and to make it roughly 2,300 calories, let's go get one of these enigmatic protein bars that are everywhere, right? 32 grams of protein. We're looking for a whey type protein. If you can't eat whey or cheese or casein or milk or anything else, go with a soy protein. But most of us don't really assimilate soy protein very well. That's just been my past experience. All right. So this has 32 grams of protein. You put all of these together and you have a good meal. And here's the other thing. We've got, between the Cliff bars, you have 7.2 ounces of weight. With the protein bar, I believe we have about 3.5 ounces of weight. So that's 10.7. And then we add roughly another 8 ounces, 9 ounces. So we've got just under a pound of food weight for an entire really supercharged, healthy meal balance for the day. If you're out there in the bush and you do have the opportunity to augment your diet with food from your foraging, that's great. You can start expanding this out. I recommend highly that you set up 3 of these food packs for your sear kit. Your level 1 type sear kit may not have the room. So I have a separate pouch that I can carry all of this in, and it'll just about hold 3 days worth of food. It's quite packed, but it's very essential, because the more stuff I can carry, the less time I have to spend messing around. And sometimes you may not have the opportunity. It may be quite dangerous to be foraging, and you really just want to get out of there. But if you're so hungry that you can't see straight, you're going to wind up in a really tight spot. So think ahead a little bit, right? What are we talking about money here? We're talking about $17 worth of food right there. Wow, that's a lot of food for one day. It is a lot of money, rather, for one day. That's 2,300 calories of super high calorie. The thing that's really making it expensive are the freeze-dried meals. If you don't have the money, get 1 freeze-dried meal and get 2 or 3 more Cliff bars in there, and that'll give you a good balance. You try to get at least 1 of these in there. Is probably going to be the way to go. That's what I recommend, this setup here. There's some other things you can do to augment. If you find MREs for a good price, you have things like this granola setup, which is, that's the equivalent of a Cliff bar there with calories. And I say that only because if you're in the military, people are throwing that stuff away, right? And you scavenge that up. But don't just have your sear kit be nothing but granola bars. You're really going to want to have kind of a balance. And so your complex carbs coming from rice and oats, that's going to really be what gives you the staying power out in the field. We're going to go out and do some field work. We'll mess around with these rations. We'll reconstitute one of them. I'll show it on the tape. We're also going to go out and we're going to take, I've been buying field guides so that we can go out together because I'm new to this area, or as they would say, I'm not from around here. Are you, Earl? No, I'm not. So I'm going to go out with you guys. We're going to take our field guides. I've got several. And we're going to look for edible wild plants and herbs and fish and trees, and we're going to get to know the area we're in. And I would hopefully encourage you to become familiar with the area you're going to be operating in so that when you go out there, you won't be going, wow, is there anything to eat here? It's amazing how much stuff is out there, but it's also amazing how much of that you have to eat. You've got to eat 60 pounds of cabbage in one day to get all the nutrients you need to survive. That's basically why a cow has its head closer to the ground than its rear end, because it can do that all day. You don't have time. You're doing other stuff. You're walking around on 2 feet, and you don't eat grass and assimilate it into protein very well. Animals do, but we don't. Folks, this has been the Maine Prepper. I hope this is helping out a little bit. Go out there and put yourself together a decent food pack, however you do it. Get something in there. Listen, if you can't afford the freeze-dried, throw some Cliff Bars in there at least have something, because something is a lot better than nothing. As I tell people, 10% of 100% is better than 0% of 100%. And so if you got a 10% solution here, that's great. Some people, they get very idealistic. I tend to be one of them. And we're going to wait until we get the premium freeze-dried or the Cadillac of this or that. And we forget that in the interim, we need to make those concentric circles I talked about in this video here about planning. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I hope this is helping, and I appreciate you guys are certainly helping me with your comments and with your encouragement and your prayers.